For the last 5 years, GameStop has been a bit of a joke, hasn't it? I mean, once it was the world's biggest physical game retailer, but since then they've closed hundreds of stores, sales have declined, the memes and ridiculous events haven't really slowed down the chaos, but now things are changing. CEO Ryan Cohen wants to turn it around, and he wants to do that by spending $55.5 billion in eBay. You could say it's a bold, outrageous move that could, on paper, revitalize physical games right at a point in time where audiences are kind of tiring of things being online only. But what if I told you that's really not what's going on here? You see, Ryan Cohen's own compensation deal was struck in January. This whole offer landed in May, and once you understand how Ryan Cohen gets paid, the whole thing stops looking like a bet on games. It rather looks like a stunt to absolutely line his pockets. It's a hell of a story, and by the end of this video, you'll have had a few laughs, and you'll certainly end this actually understanding a lot more about some fairly dodgy shit. To understand why Cohen would gamble $55 billion in eBay, you need to see how desperate GameStop has become. In 2021, it became, of all things, a meme stock. Remember all the fun of Wall Street bets? Basically, a lot of Reddit-based speculation pushed back on professionals who were shorting the stock. And essentially, it was a weird quirk of the financial system. But what it did is get meme king investor Ryan Cohen onto the board. And by 2023, he was the CEO. And with that, GameStop would embark on a new financial journey. The only problem is their revenue kept declining. That's really not surprising. Circana data says that US physical game spending in 2025 hit its lowest point since 1995. That's brutal, and to deal with it, they cut costs. They killed Game Informer magazine. In 2024, they closed 590 stores. In January 26, they closed another 400 stores. And on top of that, they pulled out of Austria, Ireland, Switzerland, Italy, and Germany. They were selling off their Canadian and French brands as well. And to give you an idea of scale, the US closures alone meant losing up to a third of their physical spaces. Things weren't great, but you know what could theoretically help sell physical games, right? It's kind of crazy, but some sort of international marketplace, one that people are used to using, and that's online. Maybe, like eBay. Now that you got the context, today's story sparked off when the Wall Street Journal reported the odd little story that GameStop, a store that sells physical video games, accessories, and a bunch of merch, Funkos, really whatever the hell they think they can sell you, that they wanted to spend $55.5 billion to buy eBay and basically turn it into an Amazon competitor. Bold strategy. On a Sunday, they filed their opening bid in what is turning into a little bit of a financial war. That bid had them buying up to 5% of eBay's available stock, and that actually put them as being just outside being one of the top 5 shareholders of the company. Now, the next step was offering existing shareholders $125 a share in cash and in GameStop stock, which is actually a 20% increase on eBay's valuation. That's basically overpaying how the market values eBay. And that basically tells us that Cohen really wants this deal, and he claims that GameStop, of all things, can actually bring a lot of value to eBay. Now, to explain himself, he went to CNBC and he made his pitch. So he believes this deal can, quote, pull costs out of the system as well as accelerate revenue growth, and that it'll do that by using GameStop's physical infrastructure to distribute goods that are sold on the eBay platform. Now, when he says pull costs, what that means is basically about $2 billion in cuts within 12 months of the deal closing. But if you wanted to know whether this was really about games or not, Cohen basically does tell us otherwise within the same interview. Here's the quote from him. "Our focus on collectibles can be a much larger business, but bringing in an entrepreneurial mindset is what I plan on doing into eBay and building something much larger." Because yes, this is basically not about games, and once you look at what Cohen has actually been building over the last 6 months, it becomes real clear what this is actually about. Cohen talking about collectibles is no accident. He really means it, and he's apparently so committed to this that he was personally selling memorabilia on eBay this year. And I say was because eBay banned him. And the accusation is that he was selling goods that were looted from Game Informer's rather famous vault of basically promotional stuff that they got. So essentially, he shut the outlet down, went and found all the storerooms of rare shit, and basically would try to, sell them in eBay. A little bit of a weird wrinkle to this story, but if you ask me, it's really just some PR spin stuff. Now, you see, what's really going on is that GameStop wants to be a speculation business, and buying eBay would kind of supercharge that ambition. Now, what do I mean when I say a speculation business? Well, basically, it's all about trading cards. So in 2022, eBay acquired TCG Player for $295 million. Now, they were one of the largest online trading card game hubs at the time, and that basically put them in a perfect position to ride the pandemic era boom in trading cards. And that's a boom that's still going. I mean, Magic the Gathering and Pokemon prices have not really come down since the boom started. And I'm sure you've seen the videos, you know? Grown adults charging through stores, getting into fights, stealing from each other, all for the chance to pull a chase card. And almost to the degree where it kind of looks like an IRL version of the South Park Black Friday episode. And of course, this is all happening because the chance to make real money is actually real. Let me explain. You see, as people get poorer, more and more people chase the dream of just pulling that one card that will set them for life. It's the same speculation market that spurred on the whole NFT craze and is going on still with the current obsession with prediction markets. And the thing is, regardless of product, most people will lose. And that's something you really need to understand. As an example, the Wall Street Journal's analysis suggests that only 0.01% of users on platforms like Polymarket are making 67% of the profits. That does sound fairly extreme, but a lot of those things can be pretty damn winner takes all. Because if you're there betting on Polymarket, I mean, that's well and good, but there can be institutions, there can be people with so much more access to information, including privilege information that you may not have, who are doing exactly the same thing, and they will basically beat you every time. Now, refocusing on this story, at least with the trading cards, there is a physical object to trade, even if that means that the card makers are the only ones who are guaranteed a profit. As of 2026, those markets have not dropped yet. Hasbro is functionally only profitable because of an endless tide of Magic the Gathering releases, though I think we should note that those are releases that are kind of pissing off the Magic community now. They're just getting flooded with cards. But of course, for the people who just trade it, the tourists who come in and then trade it like a speculative asset to get rich on, well, to them, the new Magic releases are doing exactly what they're meant to do. Now, the Pokemon Company started 2026 by buying a US card distributor in order to try and ease the scalping pressure. Because the sad thing about this is that as these hobbies get turned into a sort of speculative thing, the people who actually play the thing because it's a hobby that they love, well, they absolutely miss out. Scalpers mess them up, the price of things goes up, and it just makes the fandom worse. That kind of thing sucks, and it's the very market that GameStop wants in on. And they're doing that by making their own card packs. Yeah, GameStop is now selling digital card packs. They are called Power Packs, and Cohen launched them April 15th. And it really is absurd. So here's how they work, right? Every pack represents real cards, graded by PSA. PSA is, of course, the recognized authority that scores card condition on a 1 through 10 scale and then certifies their market value. GameStop then recombines those cards into a digital pack. Now, the way it works is that when you open one of those, the cards can then be sold back to GameStop at market value, where they can just be put into another power pack. Now, they can be shipped to you, or they can just be held in GameStop's warehouse and then sold on the market by you. And the way it works is that GameStop will charge for the pack, charge for the shipping, and charge a cut of the sale that is made on the market. They get 3 cuts on just one transaction. And eBay, of course, would give them an even bigger one on some of the big ticket items that are worth a lot. I know it's not exactly common parlance today, but I do remember about 15 years ago, people would refer to eBay as fee-gay, which is obviously a bit Pure Island disrespectful, but there is a point within that, and I have a little feeling that the fees in eBay have probably only got worse over time. So basically, from GameStop's perspective, there is a benefit with eBay, even if it has nothing to do with gaming. So here's why the plan is perhaps a little bit deceitful, or at the very least why there's things that I haven't covered yet that aren't really being put out into the public by Cohen as, you know, big important bits of PR, very much on purpose. You could argue that players could win here as a bit of a side effect, right? That a bigger GameStop could help anyone hunting down some secondhand games, retro titles, or old consoles. But the problem here is that eBay already does all of that stuff, and it does it better. eBay's literally already competing with GameStop. There's hundreds of independent stores that are able to move their own physical stock through eBay. Never mind, of course, people like you and me selling things to each other directly on the eBay platform. So this deal is obviously not about helping games then. What it basically wants to do is put two of the last spaces where physical games still live under one company, and then work out how to maximally exploit that by pivoting towards speculation. And that's why this could actually hurt eBay. Cohen can't even afford it. You see, in the CNBC interview, Cohen's pitch basically falls apart. He confirmed that they've never spoken to anyone at eBay before this whole campaign happened, and the offer is framed as unsolicited. Now, once that was said, the host, Andrew Ross Sorkin, then pressed him on the maths. And the math doesn't math, as the kids say. So here's what GameStop has actually got, right? There's $9.4 billion in cash and equivalents as of the start of 2026. There's a stock value of about $12 billion. There's a non-binding promissory letter for $20 billion USD in financing from TD Securities. Now, we don't know if that's a loan that eBay would then inherit and have to pay back, which of course would saddle them with debt for the privilege of being bought. That's the kind of thing that quite often happens with private equity, and, it leads to a lot of great things that people love, be it, say, theme parks, Red Lobsters, or things like that, getting enshittified and eventually killed. Now, here's what they need to pull all this off. $55.5 billion. And if you add up all the stuff I just mentioned, you've only got $42 billion. That's $14 billion short. It's quite a few bills. Cohen kept refusing to answer questions on this discrepancy, and he just pointed back to their letter about paying with stock and cash. It's really weird, and in a confusing, halting response that never actually answers the question, Cohen basically gestures at his solution here. And the solution is issue new stock. Of course, issuing new stock dilutes the existing shareholders, so basically, it would be diluting the value of the assets owned by existing shareholders in order to fill the big financial gap. There's really no other obvious way to make the maths work here, but the belief is that this will simply work out, that the money will turn up if the deal gets done. And for Cohen, a man obviously rather uninterested in explaining himself, that's really all that matters. Now, given everything we've covered, it really shouldn't be a surprise that all this stuff was rejected by eBay's board. They called the offer, quote, neither credible nor attractive. Yeah, I agree. And they think that eBay's prospects are financially good, they don't know where GameStop would be getting the money from, and they think that long term, it just wouldn't work out. But here's the thing, right? And why this is still a story we need to cover. Cohen already said that if the board wouldn't take the deal, that he'd just move on to talking to shareholders directly. Of course, hostile takeovers can actually happen. But you may be wondering then, why is he, in particular, so insistent that this deal happen? This is all about one thing. And that's one man's paycheck. Because there's a simple reason why this is happening, and it was in the January compensation deal. So let me explain how Ryan Cohen gets paid. No stock, no salary, no cash bonus. He's already a billionaire from previous companies, so don't feel too bad for him. So here's what he has to do. He has to raise GameStop's market cap to $20 billion. That's a doubling of their current value. He has to lift their performance to $2 billion, which is roughly tripling where they are right now. If he hits both of those, he gets the first of 10 tranches of his nearly $3.5 billion compensation package. So if he just repeats that 10 times, adding 10 billion to market cap and 1 billion to performance, doing that in total 10 times, then he'll unlock all the tranches of his compensation package, which caps out whenever GameStop hits 100 billion in market cap and 10 billion in performance. Here's how eBay fits into that. Buying eBay would basically get Cohen more than halfway to that entire cap with one single move. It's that simple. That's what he does if he just adds the two of them together by making the deal close. And that's because this is not a genuine heartfelt bet on physical games, retro games, or anything to do with gaming that you or I would care about. It was never about investors believing in GameStop or in games. This whole saga started with stock manipulation so that individuals like Cohen could get paid. Cohen has just got a $55 billion target now. If he's able to close that deal, well, I've already ran through the maths of his compensation package. He'll get a huge payday. And if the whole thing goes tits up afterwards, that's fine. As long as, of course, he is able to offload his stock before any values collapse. What a story. I hope this one doesn't end up affecting you. But honestly, if you're into retro games, card games, any of those things that risk being turned into a big old get-rich-quick speculative market that's completely unhinged, it's completely detached from the actual value of these items. It's just shit for your hobby. Now, you can say that the value of something is determined by what the market will price it at. Obviously, in the fine art world, that is often used for what we can call interesting financial purposes. But the thing is, once the speculation stuff comes in, yes, the market can price a retro game at perfect quality or a retro card at an absolute shitload of money. But the thing is, that new overall market is far bigger than the smaller market, which is the people who actually are into that for what I'm going to call genuine reasons that are pure of heart. You know, into card games because you love playing card games with your friends. Into retro games because it brings you back to a great era of your childhood and there's just so many games to explore from back then. If the market expands way, way, way beyond the actual utility of those items and it just turns into financial fucky-wucky, then if you care about those things, you are losing out. Unless, of course, you happen to have something stashed away in your attic that suddenly, for very bizarre reasons, is worth a life-changing amount of money. For your sake, I hope you have one or two of those. But that's it for this video. Hopefully that's you, and if you get that life-changing amount of money, maybe you'll be able to afford some RAM for your Steam machine. And that is the story that I think you should watch next. We just published it. It's about all the latest with Valve, the RAM crisis, data centers, Steam controller, Steam machine, and Steam frame, and you can check it out in the next video.